Hi, I'm Patty with StudioR12 Stencils, and today we are going to be doing Easter. We've got a beautiful pastel project. I'm going to show you how to layer stencils. I'm going to show you how to do some groovy backgrounds. I'm going to show you how to do it simple. And I'm going to tell you about a lot of tools you guys have had a lot of questions about. So stay tuned and welcome to our live. Hi everybody, I'm Patty, and we are going to paint Easter today, and I'm super excited about this because this would be so great on your front door, in your house, fireplace, whatever. What we've got going on today is we've got this beautiful Easter egg farm stencil, and we've got a new egg surface, and we've got some little egg jewelry that we've embellished our bow with, and I've taken I'm trying to think of the name of the stencil, and it'll be listed down below, so I just won't think of it right now. But I've taken this and I've embellished the background, and I've done some shading. We've done a bunch of colors. I've done some shading on the truck, so just kind of to elevate that project up to like the next level. If you like things simple, you can do the same thing with just a little square piece of wood. A scrap piece of wood, whatever, you can paint on your lumber, your found lumber and things like that. So don't be limited by what I'm doing. I'm doing this so that I can teach you a lot of things. So that's what my goal is to always be educational and show you things that you might want to know. So the very first thing I'd like to do is say that welcome, and we're so glad that you're here. You're why we do what we do. And we're going to do some giveaways. If you're catching us on Facebook, we're going to do some giveaways for brushes. These are dome brushes, and they are magic. So if you are already here and you're in the chat, go ahead and chat like what you like about these brushes and educate other painters. But we're going to give these away to lucky people today and tonight in the replay, and during the noon and during the evening. Noelle or Lena, or if it's not me being filmed, one of us will be live answering your questions. So that's what's great about our lives, is the questions get answered in real time. So also we have a grand prize drawing, and that is for one of our stencil packs. And my stencil pack is under here. Okay, so this is mine, and I have used it quite a bit. I used it on the Easter eggs, I used it on the jewelry, the egg jewelry. I've used it on the last couple of projects. This set is good for a whole bunch of any kind of project. And they're the things that, like really the reason we started making stencils was because if you had to base coat a chevron to get the exact perfect lines, you almost can't do it. Like the level of brush skills that you have to have is ridiculous, and the time it takes is even worse. This makes it fast. And that's what I love about stenciling, is stenciling makes everything fast, and it makes it really professional. So that is what our goal is to help you guys create and craft and do art projects and have it look professional. I want to talk about our brushes for a hot second, both the foam brushes and the other. I had my hippie noodle blown this last week, and I wanted to share with you. So I used this many brushes to paint this project. And while I was using this many brushes, like you get it wet, you dip in your paint. I've also got this many colors in the project, but I've mixed them and made even more colors. So it's like a kind of an intense, like pro crafter level of painting. You've got to have a lot of supplies. And I was thinking, gosh, I think in like times when things are like maybe a little tight for some people, it would be hard to watch me using 25 brushes to paint a project and to not have 25 brushes. So in my travels and all the things, I discovered something that I should have known. You guys have seen me paint with rollers before, and you take your roller when you're done using it, and you don't want to wash it because when it's wet, you can't use it again. So you put it in a plastic bag. I didn't like the idea of a giant bag on my table and the brushes all rolling around inside of there. So I went and got just a Rubbermaid Tupperware, whatever container you have that fits the brushes. I put a damp, this is just wrung out, there's a little teeny bit of water in there. just a damp paper towel. I'm not gonna put that on the head of the brush end. I'm gonna put it on the tail of the brush, just to keep that moisture in there and keep paint from drying out. So I'm gonna try that today live on camera. I have not tried it before, but everything that I know about painting seems to tell me that it will work. The only difference is gonna be whether or not I need a thing in there to keep it wet, but it seems like this container's really big. If it was small, I might not use it. So we don't want the head to get wet, because if you use it wet, it'll just like wash paint over, and then you'll have bleeding under and all of those things. The other thing that I wanted to address, and let me see if I can find one. Let me go into the magic drawer down here. I don't have, I found one. Okay, so we paint literally like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of projects, maybe 35 to 50 projects a week in this building where we're at. And our brushes can get a little flat if we've used them over and over, because when we clean them, pretend like this is a ginger grater with those little teeth, we go at it and clean them. And that can make our head flat. When the head gets flat, it becomes less of the brush that you buy it for. You buy it for the dome. Now this has been used probably for 1,000 projects, so like you're fine. But if it gets flat, what I did before camera here is I went ahead, and then this has also got like a ton of paint. We also teach workshops and stuff like that here. So like these brushes get used by a lot of people, and maybe not always. Some professional artists leave their brushes in here for like a week, and yeah. I do want to share though, if you do that, you can see that my paint's not hardened. I could actually still paint with that paint. So it actually just ran off into the container. I might get a stain on my foam brushes, but it doesn't ruin them. So these brushes are super durable. Anyway, so I took scissors, and what I did is I just went at an angle. I'm gonna make a big mess. I did already make a big mess on my mat. I'm gonna go at an angle and just give them a little haircut. Just get my dome back. It's gonna look like you cut your own bangs, but that's okay because you're just gonna paint with it anyway. And actually the shorter these get, the tighter they get and the more I like them. A brand new one has got a little bit of a flop to it, and these don't have any, and that means control. So anytime you have that like really movie flop stuff, you don't like that. So, and so that's what that looks like, and I'll use this, and then look at, is this the one I was just trimming on? Did I stuff it back? I think I stuffed it back. Anyway, I'm gonna use this one while we're painting today. And my trash bucket. Okay, so now I wanna talk to you about foam brushes, and then I want you guys to make sure you like, share, and comment. That's how you get entered to win in the contest. And if you're catching this later, if you're on YouTube and you're catching this, go to our Facebook page and like it so you can get in on the lives and get the prizes and all of that stuff. It's helpful for us to have you on YouTube as well, because that gets YouTube, like, shows it to more artists. And our job is to show all of you artists and all of you crafters all the really cool techniques. All right, so I've been talking about how the Polyfoam brushes are way better than the regular ones that you buy at the craft stores. I went to a big box craft store, and the only one they had was this one. And so I bought it. I'm not gonna slam the maker, so I'm not gonna show you the brand because I think that would be rude. But I wanna show you the difference. I'm saying that Poly is really cool. Okay, so when I lean on this one, I can instantly get all of that flexing, and you can see that this is just got a plastic little dowel thing in there. This one is got a straighter something inside of there. It might be wood, I don't know. I haven't dissected one. I should dissect one. I should dissect this one. Just see what that's made out of. Yep, so it's got a piece of wood inside, and then I see why. So see, that's why we dissect. Wow, this is why this is a good brush. We're gonna go all the way down to the end. Okay, so they've taken the time to put that plastic all the way through, and it is even on both sides, and they've actually got it stapled. So that, I have never done that. That's so cool. Anyway, so that's why these are much firmer. Shall we take this one apart and see what that looks like? Eesh. Hey, you know what? They are virtually the same, and the difference is in the fact that the wood goes further. The wood really holds that together, and this one is just a big floppy mess. So that's a fun little experiment. I'm gonna tear more stuff apart in the future. Okay, so you saw how the black one behaved. This is the Polyfoam ones. They just don't move. They hold their firmness, and then this one, because I already tore it apart, I only bought one. I didn't know I was gonna do that. I even wrote example on my handles so that I wouldn't, whatever, but it was fun. Anyway, so you can see that that's just really wiggly, and then this is just much better. So we have these available on our website. And in going forward, we are going to be putting links to things that we don't carry on our website. Either the companies are too big for us to buy from, or the products are unwieldy to ship, for our size company and stuff like that. So we're going to be putting links, and they're actually called affiliate links. And we get a percent, like it's like a 2% or 3%, depending on what it is of the sale of the thing. So just FYI, we do get something out of it. That's not why we're doing it. We're doing it because you guys asked us for like where to buy it and all that. And we did it for Amazon because that seems like the most logical. So that will be there for you as well. Anyway, so now we know about our brushes, what to do when they wear out, how not to have 25. And I'm going to be doing this in this video. Okay. So put that back, and now we'll get started. All right. I have got, where's my other board? Hang on a second. Just further under. So, super funny problem. One of the things that we will be linking, I don't know if you've noticed, but this is a silicone mat, and it's like 30-something inches by whatever, like it's a big mat. This is 18-inch egg, and it's not covering it all up and stuff, so that's really cool. These are neat. You can wash them in your washing machine, but you just spray cleaner on it, and the paint wipes off with a sponge. You can use a hot, soapy towel and clean it up. So it is amazing if you need a surface to be protected. It's the bomb. Okay, so in my project, this really, really was a head scratcher for me. In my project, I needed straight lines on an egg. And I was like, how in the world am I going to get straight lines on an egg? T-square is not going to help here. So I came up with an idea. Straighten you out. What we're going to do, we're going to do the old paper folding trick. I think I've done this once before. It's amazing how well it works. All right, so you're going to take this, you're going to take a marking device, and you're just going to go around and just make sure that you can see it. Tracing paper would be better, but it costs more. You could literally take apart a brown paper bag and do this. You could use parchment paper, wax paper would be great because it's see-through, but you've got to have the big enough roll to do it. You could tape it together if you needed to do that. Anyway, then what you're going to do is you're going to cut out your egg, and I'm not going to do that because I think you all know how to use scissors. And then what I do is I fold it directly in half, kind of giving away the secret to how I did this, but that's okay. Fold it in half, and then fold it in half, and then just fold it over and over and over again and crease it. Okay, and then I laid it on top of my egg. I did a little mark to see where I wanted the lines, and then I had to actually make a few extra folds. Then I took my chalk and I lined the back of the pattern, and I'm making tracing paper. Isn't that cool? So then we're going to take this. And I want to say, don't be limited by the colors that I've chosen to do this. This would be fabulous in pink, coral, blue, any of the colors. So it would be really pretty in a black and white if you like that black and white kind of like Zentangle look. It would be fabulous. And so you can change it to any colors you want. Stencils are so flexible. And then if you're making gifts for people, like it's so cool to have like a one stencil and you're like, oh, Jane likes black and white, and then Mom likes pink, and Aunt Mary loves purple. So you have your stencil, but you can use it over and over again, literally until you break it, which you do if you clean it too vigorously, if your dog gets a hold of it. I broke one last week by pulling the tape off the wrong way, and I pulled the letter out. I was being mean. So it is possible to do. but you have to really kind of work at it. So then we're going to get our pattern. So I'll lay that on there, lay it on the bottom and stretch it back out a little bit. And then see where, you have to see the top of my head. All right, see where we get. It almost would be better to do the tracing elevated so you could get or cut slightly inside the line, but then you won't get the perfect shape. But just work with it a little bit, make sure you're evenly on both sides. A little bit to that side. Okay, so while I'm futzing with this, tell us where you're from. We're in Southeast Ohio, and say hi to Noelle or whoever's in the chats. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do our line and do our line. And you could lay a T-square right on top of here just to keep your line straight. Mine's a little wiggly, but I'm gonna not worry about that. Okay, and then when you take it off, it's really hard to see, but I can see it without my glasses. I can see that I have a white line on both spots, so that's what I needed. Okay, and now we're gonna get out our big old pumpkin stencil here. I think this is called colonial stencil, and it is so we have this, I think it's quatrefoil in with the big pieces in, and then the skinny lines are the cutouts, and then this one's the big shape is the cutout, and that's what I wanted for this project. And then what I have to do this is I have to line up. I used the little square bits, so this is done on a laser. All of our stencils are laser cut, so they're super precise. It's always amazing. You stack them up when you're shipping them or whatever, and they all line perfectly up, so they're always a perfect representation of the file. And then the file is done in a big graphic design file. And so these are gonna be straight because they're done in a way that you know that you're on a straight edge. So use parts of your stencil to be your straight line when you're putting things together. So I'm going to use an edge, and you just decide on which edge you want. Okay, and then we're going to tape. Tape is your friend on this project. Okay, so I'm going to use a long piece of tape. Yep, throw my glasses over my shoulders. So tell us what the weather's like where you're at, because today is sunny. Sunny in Southeast Ohio. Okay, so I tape over that, and then I'll work it in just a little bit. And then I'm super curious, what level of painter are you? Like, are you a beginner? Are you intermediate? What things are you interested in learning? Are you interested in learning advanced techniques? Are you interested in the basics? I think that's super interesting. We want to give you what you want. So I've got that. Make sure I feel like I'm straight. Nope, my tape is walking, so I've done something wonky. So when you're going to pull tape up off of a stencil, you need to kind of anchor it. And it also helps if you're down on the piece right there. Let me see what I've done wrong. You got to use the same edge. Like, it's no good if you don't use the same part of the pattern. And I think that's what I did. I started talking and I lost my train of thought. That's better. Okay, so get that pushed down again. We're going to want to be careful where the tape is not super pushed down because of the pattern. So I'll show you what to do about that. Okay, so now we're going to paint. That's what we're here for today, right? So I've mixed paints together to get my colors. So what I've done is I didn't like my yellow quite this bright, so I added white and yellow together. And then in order to get this, I'm going to get my other one up here. In order to get this more creamier color, then I mixed a little bit more. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And this is your project, so like as light as you want it, as dark as you want it, whatever your bag is, do that. Okay, so always shake your paint, never hit your hand. like and share and comment, and then I'd like to know how many of you do shake your paint like this. Don't do that, it's bad for your hand. And I did that for probably 20 years, and then one day my hand was hurting, and I looked down and I realized it's because I'm hitting my hand every day. Okay, so I'm gonna get some colors out. When you're painting, when you're mixing paints, and mixing paints can be scary, but like you can just throw it away. It's not, who cares, right? It's just paint. So I'm gonna pull some of my paint out, and I'm using an offset handled palette knife. These seem like a simple thing. If you use a flat one, that's not a flat one. I actually used this one last week and tried to paint, and I had it all up my knuckles. My fingernails were like the whole color of my project. It was really silly. Okay, so we're gonna go in there. The offset, anyway, keeps your fingers out of the paint. The flat ones do not, so if you're using anything flat, it's terrible. Gotta get to a little bit darker color. The trick is to put your dark into your light. You always start with your light and you put your dark into the light, because if I start with my dark and I try to lighten it, you're gonna be pushing uphill the whole time. And literally one day I had like I was going for like a soft sachet pink, and I had a whole palette full of paint because I was doing it the opposite way and I had to keep adding more color. So always just a touch, and work in dots. Don't work in whole like blobs. So I'm just gonna go over here, mix in, see if I think that I've got that matched. And then because I already had toned it down, I'm gonna go ahead and tone down with a little bit of white to bring it kind of in that same value family. Now what I've done is I've about remixed my original color. So we'll go pick up another dot. And you want this first color to be light. And this is something, we were talking about this in here. We were talking about, like, so we know that we're in a weird time, like this is the beginning of 2021, sorry. But 2020 is the year I'm talking about in a way, because, you know, all the pandemic-y stuff, we were talking about, would it be interesting to have like a painting workshop where we paint along together, and then where you're painting and asking questions in real time and you're painting on your set, or any of that kind of stuff? Or would it be interesting, once we can be liberated from all this stuff, to have a workshop here in Southeast Ohio? Put in the chats if you're interested in that, because I think it would be fun. And I think it would be different than this. This you can go back and reference, so I think that's good. I don't know if it would be even better to do it the other way, so just let us know. So we're gonna take our dome brush. We're gonna not have a wet brush. We're gonna have dry paint, meaning we haven't added water to it. I have a dry paper towel, a dry brush. I think that's all the dries. My surface is dry. And I'm going to pick up some paint just on the tip, and I'm going to roll it off. I'm gonna offload it about 5 times. If you've scooped up the paint, then you might need 10 times. Have a little piece of cardboard next door to you and just test it. Like, you know, that's the beauty of being a crafter at home, like, and Amazon shipping us so many boxes these days, or all the companies that we order from. Hopefully you're ordering from us too. But you have lots of little pieces that you can pull apart. Cereal boxes, the inside of cereal boxes make a perfect little test palette as well, because they're so flat and smooth. All right, now I've talked my brush dry. Pick up some more. So for the beginners out there, this is what you want to do, is we're gonna swirl instead of stipple, but near my edge, we are gonna stipple, but I'm gonna start in the middle. This is not the most beginner-friendly stencil to manage. If I was a beginner, told you I was gonna paint, maybe I'm a fibber. If I was a beginner, or if I was somebody that maybe got flustered with too many things going on, I would ultra tape it. You're gonna have to move things, you'll work a little bit harder, but I would smooth it out and I would tape it in a couple more spots. Because this is so lacy, that it wants to just move a little bit. But it does an amazing job, which I think that you can see on the project. Okay, so securing your stencil, really good tip. And then we're gonna go in here and we're just going to, I'm not even barely touching them, my bristles aren't even bending, and if I was working on bending them, I can bend them. Okay, so that's how soft my brush is going down. And I'm just going to ever so lightly swirl. The swirling seems completely anti-making sense. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me when, I'm not even sure when I learned to swirl, but we have become swirlers, and because this is how you stipple, right? That's the way it's done. It is a bad way to do it because, okay. Stencil versus swirl, stipple versus swirl, which one are you? There's a time and a place for both, but you're gonna work a lot harder if you only stipple, okay? So just swirling does a really good job. When you get next to your edge, because this is not big enough to do the whole thing, don't do the one with the line, because if you have a line right in there, then you are going to have a dickens of a time covering that up. So don't do the liney parts. All right, so I'm just gonna get that swirled, and then I do wanna peek and show you, and then, so that brings up the other question, are you a peeker? If you're not, I encourage it. Okay, so I wanna see and make sure that I like my color I mixed. And I think that I do. Okay, and I'm gonna get that tape back down. All right, so we go everywhere. It's important that this color is kind of tone on tone, and not super strong, because what we're gonna do next is gonna make it stronger, and if you do it too strong, it'll take it out of the pastel look. All right, so we'll just finish that. The stippling that I talked about over here next to our tape, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna aim my brush in towards like my belly button, okay? I'm gonna stipple away from the tape. And if I stipple this direction into that tape, that's gonna immediately shove the paint under the stencil. So those are some really good tips that you can do on any stencil. And I think that's the important thing with these videos. Don't watch them for like how I paint this project. Watch them for these tricks, because every single thing that I'm showing you can be used on anything you wanna paint, anything. So you can be victorious in all your painting. All right, so we're gonna get that done. And then we're gonna rinse and repeat on all the things. We'll move our tape around and do that. So I'm going to plop that in water. I always plop my brush. Oh, I was supposed to put it in the bucket. I'm gonna move my bucket. Hopefully I remember it over there. I need a mnemonic device. Maybe I'll put my cup on top of it. Okay, maybe I won't put it right there. Okay, put it there. So I'll put the next one in the bucket, and you guys can be yelling at me and saying, no, don't do that. All right, I can take this stencil off because I need to reuse it. And then we'll bring this guy back on board. And then you get to watch me line things up again. So let me think of another question to ask you so that you have something to do while you're watching me do this. See how I'm holding this down? Just making sure I'm anchoring. This is a very delicate, this is probably one of the most delicate stencils that we offer. So you definitely want to be tender to it. It's like, I could dissect one of these stencils for you. I don't want to do it right now because I don't have one, but I will do it in a future video. I'll show you, like with brute pressure, how durable they are. They're amazing. The material is fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to line this up and find the perfect shape right there. Get that done. Okay, so I'm supposed to be asking a question, but I'm trying to line up, so apparently I can't do both at the same time. Tell me, I'm curious at how many brushes do you think are the perfect amount of dome brushes? I'm an anomaly, I'm an outlier because we paint hundreds and hundreds of things. I have buckets of brushes everywhere, and that's really wonderful. I won't lie, like having a wall of paint behind me is like magic, because like it is. But yeah, I'm curious at how many is enough. For those of you that craft all the time, what's the good amount? What's the perfect amount? I think that it's probably debatable depending on how many colors you like to use. This one is a lot because of the colors. It's just a lot of colors. All right, so I'm gonna tape up top there. I'm going to put this in my bucket. I'm gonna put this in my bucket. Okay, remember. All right, now I need a darker color. I'm going to not brush mix. If you brush mix, you can do it, and I have done it. I'm like the breaker of all the rules when it comes to painting, but if you brush mix, you run the risk of getting too much paint glommed up inside your bristles, And what's going to happen is you're going to have too much paint and you're going to have that bleeding. So all that control, it really is the secret. And it's not control in a bad way. It's control in like having the right, just the right amounts of things. It's like if you put too much salt in a recipe. You can have way too much of a good thing. Anyway, if you mix your brush, mix with your brush, then you can bleed under. Okay, I don't know that that's dark enough. I'm gonna put a little bit more and have like 2 piles sitting there. So this is just like a mustardy color, and then this is like a lemony color. And we use acrylic paints, and these are honey bottles. These are down in the description. They're one of those links, affiliate links kind of things, because like, I don't want to carry honey bottles, but you guys have asked a lot about them, and they are really wonderful. So if you have a need for them, that's what we just take. We paint by the gallons of paint, so we have to have them in smaller bottles because we can't do it any other way. Anyway, I'm gonna turn that over. The brushes are available in sets, and they're available on all the different websites as well. I also wanted to point out that we have a set for this Easter egg collection. We've got the little egg embellishments. We've got with the stencils. There's, I think, 3 stencils that we've used for this project. And what's neat about this project is, like this one and one of the other ones that I'm going to show you are usable on anything. So you can take them any season of the year and you could do that. Also, I wanted to say we have like hundreds of these pattern stencils. If you like wanted to do like the buffalo plaid down here, it would look so cute. Buffalo plaid is just timeless. Okay, I'm going to start with, I think I'm going to start with the dark. I'm going to pick up a little paint. I want this to be really dusty. So I'm going to really, probably 20 times roll it off on my paper towel. And don't use cheap paper towels, and there is not a link in the down below for the not cheap paper towels. But use something that's not super linty, and just something that holds together and isn't like paper, because paper won't grab the paint. This is like Bounty something, or I don't know. We get them from the dollar store, we get them from Walmart, we get them from Amazon, everywhere. So anyway, now I'm going to go right near my edge, and I talk to my paint dry. Wonder how many times a video I do that. Okay, so I'm holding this taut. One of the other things that you're going to see here, I swear we're going to get started. One of the other things that you see here is that this flops over, and when something flops over, it can lay down, and when it lays down, it lifts up in the middle. So I'm pulling it straight and not letting it do that, giving it a little tension. Not a tension, but tension. So I'm just gently, you run the risk here of doing a line. We don't want it liney, we want it faded. So, but I am going near my edge first, and I'm going out about 1.5 inches. And now I need to move my tension over here. And then I'm gonna get down near my project. If you put your glasses on, it helps. And I'm going to just roll the brush around. There's so little paint on my brush right now that it's going to fade perfectly. And I'm moving pretty quickly. I don't know if you can see how fast or you're paying attention to that. I'm not sitting still and focusing in one area. And then I can come back. I still haven't reloaded that brush. If you lose bristles, by the way, this is a brand new one. If you lose bristles, that's super natural for these. These are a natural bristle. But the way that they're glued together, they just don't always, all the excess doesn't come out when they make the brush. If you ever have any problem with any of our brushes, which these brushes are phenomenal, I don't even know that we've had any ever returned, but we stand behind our product completely. So just know that if there ever is a problem, that it's not a problem, we'll take care of it. Okay, so I've got that nice and faded. I think I need a little bit more. I still haven't reloaded my brush. I've been talking, showing all the things. I'm not going to go near that line over there. And then I'm just going to, you'd think I would be totally making a mess that way, but you will see in a second that it is not a mess. I'm going to gently lift my stencil, and look at that really cool fade. Isn't that wonderful? So now I'll line it back up. And make sure that you're liking, sharing, and commenting so that you get in the prize drawing. And if you are seeing us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I don't know about you, but like it gets a little bit intimidating on YouTube. There's so much to see in the world of videos and stuff like that. Like I garden and paint and I do all these things. So like I'm over here in a Christian video, and then I'm over here in cooking videos, and if I don't tag myself, like basically when you like and share and put the little bell, you're telling yourself where your favorites are. You're not necessarily doing it for us. You're telling yourself and reminding yourself that that's where my favorites are. And that is, for me, super, I don't think I could keep track of anything if I didn't do that. So, all right, now I'm gonna come back over on this side and marry the two together. So I wanna be super careful where they overlap, so I might get a dark spot. What do you do if you get a dark spot? Paint is like makeup, and paint is the best eraser you'll ever, ever, ever have. So what you do if you get a real dark spot is you go back to your main color and you put makeup over it. So you just kind of feather right back over it, and it's just like if you had a blemish or a freckle you didn't want somebody to see on your face, you put a little bit of makeup on there, concealer, and the problem goes away. So get that feathered out, and I think I want it a little teeny bit darker on the edge down here. All right, gently take off our tape. I could have probably taped this a little bit more intelligently because now it's stuck. There we go. And ta-da, perfection. Okay, so next we are going to go with the next stencil. I'm not gonna complete this twice because I think that's way too much repeaty pants on the video. So, next stencil is like my favorite stencil. One of the things, so I didn't put my brush in the box. Okay, brush is going in the box with the other brush. Okay, so I'm not sure I'm coming back to yellow. That's the problem, is when I change the colors. But I do know that once I get on my Easter egg, that's when I was running into a million brushes. So we'll see if I keep it together, remember to use the box, and we'll see how that experiment works. So when we make stencils, we literally sit down and I want to show you guys a little tape trick right here. I just broke the rule of tape removing, and then I'm going to show you the rule of makeup. Okay, so I pulled the tape straight up, and this has been on there for, since last week sometime. And I peeled and chipped. Actually, I won't need to show the makeup because I can do it with my banding stencil. But I pulled this off. So the correct way to remove tape is you pull it right close to its corner right there to the edge, and you make it into a folded, whatever, right angle, I don't know what angle that is. And you pull slowly, and it will gently, this will cut the edge if you've had any kind of thing. So really, I should be pulling it this way because that's my painted edge. And that makes a knife that cuts the edge of the tape, so if you have two colors butted together, it won't show. And then by going slowly, you saw me, I ripped that paint off of there. If you go slowly, you won't have that happen. So there is a technique for paint removal. And just like me just going at it with the tape on the lettering stencil that I did last week, I just trashed the inside of the letter B or something. It might have been the letter D. But the insides have to have those little bridges and stuff, and I just tore it apart. All right, so this will be hidden with my banding. On our stencils, so our stencil company is, I think, unique in that we are a body of creative people that make these stencils. So we, literally, I think we have so many art degrees in our company that it's ridiculous. So we have real painters that do things. And then, I've been a professional crafter painter for 30 years. So I use stencils. And when we design them, we think of ways to help people get over problems. For example, our grand prize drawing is the set of these things. In painting without stencils, if you needed to paint stars in your background because you wanted a patriotic something, a patriotic detail, and you wanted stars, to get the straight lines in each of those things, this is a tool. It's more tool than stencil because you couldn't do it. And then you could trace each of them, and the painstaking amount of hours of work would be ridiculous. Snowflakes are the same thing. So every one of these things was done, checks, was done with the purpose of making your painting easier, my painting easier. It might have been a little bit selfish. There's confetti. This is our grand prize. Make sure to check it out. There's a link below to our website. Bricks, the diamonds, all of these are done because they have pointy things that are terrible to paint freehand. I am more of a pattern painter or freehand painter, and I was over it. The minute we got a laser to cut stencils, I was like, hey, let's make these things. All right, so this is a banding stencil, and what this does for you, and I'll take it apart. I always take my extra bits of tape and just leave them on the edge of my table, so when I need just a little bit, I have it. So what this does is each of these is in the correct dimensions of sizing. This is 1/16 to 9/16. So in incremental steps, it gives you a band. The reason I like this size is because these aren't super flexible. When you get really long, you've seen it on, I think it was the table runner video. I used the big tea towel stencil, and it was super floppy, and I had to put the adhesive on the back. So in this case, I'm gonna tape it, and I like this because I have one stencil that does all of these bands, and wait until you see how easy it is to line it up and move it down the line. It's really neat. I didn't know if it would work that way, and it works really well. Okay, so I need 2 pieces of tape. I can't reuse the one I pulled off because it all curled up, but I can use it for other stuff. So I need to mask the holes on either side, and that way I don't get that ghosting. Ghosting is when you go over another part of the stencil accidentally, and then I've showed you in another video how to use the little click eraser wet to get rid of ghosting, and I can show that to you again. All right, so we're gonna take a brush, not too big, not too small, with a good point, and we're gonna need a color. All right, I do a fade on this one as well. So we're going to, this is me looking over here going like, how did I do that? Use a little of this color, mix a teeny bit of pink in there. I love the coral representing Easter. I'm not so much a pink person as I am, I like a little bit of coral, but I am gonna marry just a little bit. And I'm breaking the rule of mixing because I know what I'm doing, but if you were doing it, I would have you go the other way. Mix the dark into your light. I knew that about 50% of that paint would equal what I wanted. And I know that the swirling, this is why, right here, this is why you don't want to put your palette on your project. If this had been on my project, I would have been sad. What I would have done to fix it is dip a paper towel into my water and immediately get it cleaned up. But I'm gonna get rid of this and make sure to stay off of my, my project. That's gonna make a little mess. All right, so now we're going to line this puppy up. All right, so what is the favorite technique that you have seen today? What is your very favorite? Or what's the new technique that you saw today that you didn't know before? Before I put on, I have chicken lips, but before the video I was putting on lip gloss or whatever, and I was using the little side of the shiny case to put on the lipstick as a mirror, and Noelle was like, I didn't know that was a thing, you know, so it's so cool. Sometimes it just does blow your hippie noodle. The idea of putting the brushes in the plastic bag or in a container blew my noodle. All right, so now we're gonna go super soft over here. I don't want a heavy coat of paint. And notice I'm not stippling or swirling. I'm going with. Okay, and then I pick it up and I've got a perfect line. Isn't that amazing? So imagine, for the price of one stencil, you have saved the world and the oceans 800,000 things of tape. You know, because if you have ever painted things with bands before, you know that it takes tape, and then if you need to change it, you have to change it, tape again. So much work, so much lost tape. It's just terrible. Okay, so you overlap it slightly. And in case you can't tell, these are the simple things that make me excited. All right, so then we do it again. Always being careful, and I actually did the thing you shouldn't do. I went right to my line, and I'll show you why that's bad. What you should do, I'll show you right here, what you should do is you should fade towards that line, but not go all the way to that line. So now when I get over here, that stays a line, okay? And then in order to fix that, what I'm going to do is going to stipple a little. And I already know that I'm going to put these dots in a little bit of a fade and stuff like that there, so I know I'm okay, but it is the wrong thing to do, and I want you to know how to not make mistakes. Okay, and just give it a couple more little, pull it up, and continue on. This next bit is going to cover those tape marks that I messed up on. And they are going to, and this fade is going to work, and I should have moved it down a little bit. I'll have to move my stencil one more time. So those aren't covering very well. They're going to be darker, but let's do this. Let's go in and just give it a little undercoat of that makeup we were talking about earlier. And so I would just stipple that to give it some makeup. So, and then what's interesting is when you stipple, you have to wait for the paint to dry. When you swirl, you don't really have to wait for the paint to dry very much. So that is a really neat thing. So this might be an example. I don't know that I'll use it later. I might use it again in a few minutes because I'll have to stipple again. On brushes and on foam brushes, this was interesting to me. I was gathering my supplies, and we have those three-tiered carts from, we have 2 or 3 of those three-tiered carts from IKEA. There is not a link down in the thing because that's not something I don't think everybody needs. Anyway, I was gathering these and I was looking at these, wondering if they were going to be hard or not. So this one has a crusty edge, and that happens because it's not down in the water. If you just let it float on top of the water, then the paint dries right there. So that's what happens there, but this is just stained. So, and if there are any little sharp edges, I just pull them off and leave them on the floor. We do vacuum. But yeah, so if there's anything, and this one's super soft, so you just have to take care about how you stuff them in the water. But they still paint the same. They may not antique the same when they get chewed up like this. So you could take your scissors and you could give it a sharper edge again. Take it down to where that plastic is and just keep using it. Like you just might not always be able to do the same technique with the brush. When these get really worn down, I told you I was going to paint with this one. When that gets really worn down, you might be able to make like a textured effect. So this brush becomes a different brush. So don't worry if your brushes get worn out. I had one of the very first brushes was an angle, little tiny angle shader that I jacked up and didn't take care of, and it ended up splitting apart, and it makes the best little leaves on trees. And so I don't throw it away. I've been using it for 30 years, but it's my leaf brush, you know? So super cool. Like your brush becomes something different. Anyway, so there's my makeup. Whoops. Getting excited over here. All right, and I'm going to do one more time. Okay, and I think that'll be enough. Boy, my first inclination is just to shoot that thing right into that water bucket. Whew, I'm a trained monkey. Okay, So how many of you have ever put your paintbrush in your coffee? I've done that. One of my friends from Venezuela sat on her paint palette. She got up to go to the restroom or something and put her palette down on her chair and came back and sat squished straight down on that palette. What's the funniest thing you've ever done with paint? What's the funniest mistake you've ever made with paint? Okay, so there's that. And make sure you're liking, sharing, and commenting so that you can win the grand prizes. That set of stencils is, the retail value is like over $100, but it is at a very, 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 very wonderful price. So you want to make sure that you win that one. And then if not, you guys take advantage. So we're doing a thing for the next, we're trying to figure out how to do the things. We're a little company and we don't have a big old tech department or anything, but we're going to offer during this, this live day special prices on this kit and on the different things that we use, and see if that makes a difference for you, that you like, I know I want to paint that, let me go get that and get some savings. So let us know what you think of that, and give us feedback. I think I just sprayed all the way across. All right, now I'm going to put my stencil back on there. Okay, and then I'm just going to come in from the edge. Are you guys loving this banding stencil? I think they're magic. We also have the most amazing clock stencils. So we just want that to be really dark at the edge and then feather it in. Ta-da. Like if you tried to do that, like without, you could do it with tape, but to be able to use this over and over again, this is a really good example of a stencil that I would wash. So I've used it now on this project. I've probably got 5 or 6 layers of paint on there. Paint is plastic, even though it's thin, it's still plastic. And so what is happening is that's drying and it's making my Mylar thicker and thicker and thicker. So you want to wash that off because I won't get as crisp a line as it gets thicker. So that's one, and I would put this in my sink with warm soapy water and use like the little vegetable brush. You could actually use one of these brushes, and then just lightly, and I would do it in the same way that I paint with it. I would do it with the grain or just lightly swirl on it. It'll come right off, so you don't really have to, you don't need cleaner, just Dawn dish soap and some warm water. We'll do it. All right, so now we'll go over here. And see how I'm just reusing my tape. Okay, I don't have my line lined up, and that's really important. I'm off by a hair, but that's gonna make my line look jaggy. So we wanna get that line actually lined up. Okay. So let us know like what you think that we should be showing you guys. What's your favorite holiday to paint? Like I could paint fall all year long. Like that's my favorite time of year. I think it's the one that I like decorating for the most because it goes from like September to like through Thanksgiving. I was like through Halloween. Anyway, and you can just kind of morph it more towards the golds and the stuff like that. What's your favorite holiday to paint for? Repeat on this other side. Okay, and take that off. So now we've got that shaded. And then in this middle, I have it a little bit shaded as well. Brush going into, let's go in and check out how this brush is doing. I've talked it for a long time. See if that still feels a little bit wet. It's not giving me any color. It's not really bleeding. Well, I did get some off on the paper towel. So that's a good sign that that is, but it is feeling a little bit dry. So I'm thinking, I think this container's too big. So I'm gonna call this right now and I'm gonna say, try a plastic bag, and I don't have one right here, so I will try one in the next video and we will do that. But I don't wanna wreck these brushes, so I'm gonna chuck them in the water. I could move this closer to the thing. I'm gonna have to work on this, I think, in off camera and then bring back the solution. So this week while I'm painting, I will practice and then I'll let you know. But it was worth a shot. Okay, so in the middle, we're gonna go with a lighter pink, and I kept it pretty light. We're gonna go to a little bit smaller brush, and I'm brush mixing. I'm actually brush drying off. I picked up a little white, put it on my palette, picked up a little pink, put it on my palette. That's probably the safest way to brush mix. And then we're just gonna fade right there in the middle. A little bit of soft pink. It's not super noticeable, but it does, I think, makes a nice look in the end. Beep. Stop grabbing. Okay. All right, what is your most decorated room? Like what's the place that you spend the most time primping? Is it the dining room, the kitchen, living room, porch? Curious about that. And then put maybe let us know, is there anything that you've noticed on our website that you'd like to see more of? Because I would love to know so I can give you what you want. Okay, that part's done. You would repeat up here. And now we're gonna get out our other stencil. So that's our 3 stencils. Oh, and I think this is the one that I wrecked. Hang on. I think I kept it. Yep. I think this is the one. I think it was the G. Yep, that's the G. Okay, so I kept this for you guys, and it's a little bit hard to see, but if I lay that flat, you can see that I basically I made that G just kind of do that. It's not wrecked, but it did kind of get folded, and it's not optimal. You could bend it back in place. You want to be gentle with stencils, so they're not made out of concrete. But so now I did get that to lay back down flat, and you could push it with your finger when you're using it, so if you do break a stencil, that's how you fix it. But just be careful. I just whang, there went the tape. And that just, I didn't pull it. So let me show you. Put that across here. And then what I did was I pulled it with my bridging, and so that caught it, and see how that bent that up? So that's what I did. So instead, what I would do is go the other way. And I would do it a little bit gentler. Get that one out of the way. So you can go here, and you can just make sure that you're anchoring. See how that's pulling with everything? So just pay attention to the grain of your stencil. That's a good technique, and then you won't be disappointed when you break something. Okay, so now we're gonna position our stencil, and I've got it pretty close to the bottom there. I love this stencil. I saw this when we were gonna paint it for website pictures. So we have to paint everything because we've got websites, right? And so I saw it laying there getting ready to be painted, and I was like, wait a minute, we have to do this as a project. I do not have a T-square, so we're gonna wing it. How do we wing it? We're gonna use a found object, and you're going to say, that's about even over there. It's about even over there. I did a pretty good job. And so that's what you can do when you don't have a ruler is, use your knuckle or something like that. If you need it to be precise and it's gonna make you kind of wigged out, then find your T-square. So I'm gonna take that, make sure I'm lined up at the bottom, get some tape. So taped it a couple places on the one that I used. Now this one's different because of the colors that we change on things. So it actually, you have to do a little bit of it's kind of like a tapey project. So you get that anchored down. Keep it straight. Oh, for pity's sake. Every now and again. Okay, so we're gonna use our teal for the top. And the truck. I want to show you how to do the taping, and I don't want to recreate the whole project, I'm going to show you the basic things. So actually the teal on the top is basically just painted. So I'll show you that. So it's just the color and you're just going to swirl. So I'm not going to show you that because I think this is way more interesting because we have that, we call it the ombre. It's like when you do the hair darker on the bottom and it's lighter on the top or in reverse. So this is dark on the bottom and light on the top. So I'll show you that. We're going to use a swirl technique on that. And we're going to use our lighter pink mix. And I think I'm going to need to, I'm going to do this the right way because I want to sneak up on it. And I've got it right next to the color that I'm going to do the ombre with. So I want to see them together to see that I'm keeping them light enough. If I do this color too light, then it will blend with the yellow and you won't be able to tell the difference between the two. Okay, and I'm getting close to it. So I'm pick up that color and do the Easter eggs. All right, so I'm going to hold it down on either side just to make sure I've got good contact. And I'm going to do the swirl. And I think that's going to be a little bit light. So I need to do a little bit more dark. Okay, that'll probably do it. Always wipe your palette knife off, and if you forget to wipe your palette knife off, you soak that in some warm soapy water, and then you should be able to use a scrubby and get it off. I have used sanding paper, sanding blocks on these before, so you can be pretty aggressive with them. They are the neatest tool. You need a flat one for the scraping techniques, and you need an offset. Those are the two like that are must-haves, and they're pretty darn cheap. Okay, so now we're going to go back over that. Go back over it. You don't have to wait to dry when you're doing the swirling. Okay, now I'm going to dirty brush, pick up the straight dark coral color. And then I like to call this neutralizing my brush. So what I do is when I've had a different color in my brush, I wipe it all out, and then I load the next color I'm going to put in my brush, and then I wipe it all out. And now it's more near the color I'm going into. I run the risk if I do a mix on my brush that I'll lighten the paint and it won't show. So that's why I neutralize, and it really does make quite a difference. You can see that this is much lighter than this is. Okay, and we'll go back over here. Now we're going to do the same fade that we did over here. That would be what I would call an advanced technique. And then I just made a line, come over here, take off some more. Remember on the fade, you have to have really faint paint. Don't try to get there all at once. You want to go at the bottom first so that some of that paint gets rubbed off. I feel like I'm lecturing myself right now. I just told you guys that down here, and then I did the wrong thing. I think that's why these videos are good, is I'm willing to mess up and show you the techniques. So if you guys like this, make sure you share. If you belong to any painting groups or anything like that, share with them so that everybody else can know more stuff, and then that helps us as well, of course, but it's really good to share with your fellow painters. All right, so now I'm going to walk up just a little bit. You want to keep it about halfway. Don't forget to like, share, and comment for the prizes. Okay, and then I'm not going to pull this off so I don't have to reposition it, but there's the fade. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, and now we'll go back and I'm going to show you how to do the masking for the truck and how to do the shading for the truck. This is a good place for this little wadded up piece of tape because it's not going to be super sticky. So these lines are too skinny to do my tire around. So I'm going to need to mask, and I've got a little cheat that I'll share with you. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it's a good, like, just in case. Can't find your roll of tape because somebody moved it to the wrong room of the house. Does that ever happen? Fingernail clippers and scissors, those are our houses. Can never find, oh, and the tape measure. Oh, darn tape measure. Okay, that one just, when you need a tape measure, you need a tape measure. Same thing with, I guess, fingernail clippers. All right, my cheat is Post-it notes. You take a Post-it note, and your Post-it note can travel. You can put it there, you can stipple, pick it up, stipple again. It's a little bit longer, like of a fix, but it's really great in a pinch if you need something masked. They work great. I'm gonna use a smaller brush, pick up my gray. I'm gonna keep this dusty, and if it's dusty, that means I'm wiping it off, so I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the paper towel. If I use a really strong color on here for these tires, you might only see the tires. So this way, you're gonna just get a light tire, and it will look better. You want it even. This is a good place to ghost. Let me show you that. Do I have my eraser? I don't know that I get to show you because I don't know if I have it. I think it moved. All right, I will show you on the next one. If you want to go back, I'm trying to think of which video it was. One of the last videos I showed the ghosting. It might have been Valentine. I don't remember. Okay, so now I've got my nice light tire. I would go along on this. I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm going to go along on here in the swirl and fill that all in. You can decide if you want that on this one. I've got it slightly darker, so we might have done it with black and done it light. You could use the gray and go heavier. You could do the black and go light. So go a little teeny bit heavier. Just don't want it to be reading tire. So these are techniques that you would use when you're doing any project. You want to keep the balance of your project, and this is why I use a lot of brushes, because I stop and start and do all that. I want to show you the truck though. Let's do the back of the truck. This is something that you would do for any project that you're working on, unless it's just like a wood background with a white painting. You want to look for balance in your colors. So if you have like a really dark background and you want it to be soft, then you would do all of your top colors in like the softer. If you want high contrast, you would do it super strong, a couple layers. So you can really control all of your techniques, all of your painting by just paying attention to how many layers, how soft you're brushing, all of that. Once again, always control, right? So on the tires, got tape everywhere. We're gonna offload some of that so I can use my fingers. Get down in there. These little details, this would make a really good two-part stencil, but the two-part stencils start getting expensive because you have to charge for that stuff, so we try to keep them one part until we can't. But we do have a lot of two-part stencils. And then I don't know if you know this, but a lot of our stencils are available in a bunch of sizes, like almost all of them. So we usually have between 3 to 5 sizes for every one of our stencils. So that's a really unusual thing. If you go into like big box craft stores, they usually have one size and you only get one size. So I think that more sizes is much, much better. All right, so on our teal, I'm using this very neutral salem-y color, but I wanted it to read teal, so then I also put in some of the turquoise or teal. I still don't know the difference. I think the teal is freaking yellower or something. I know this somewhere in the back of my brain. Okay, so if you guys know, tell me in the chat, and then Noelle will educate me and give me a sign to put on my forehead after. All right, so we're going to mix those two colors together. I did about 50-50. And this is a really good example of not doing that because I've made it too dark. So the rule is to put your dark into your light. And so I'll pick up a little bit of this mix and put that in there. And there we go. That's much better. I'm always, if nothing, a rule breaker. Don't tell. Okay, take our brush, new paper towel, and we're going to paint our truck. Keep our truck light. And I gotta add one more piece of tape. I told you this is a tapey project. All right, so I'm gonna go right along our Easter eggs. The Easter eggs are all done in a bunch of different colors. You can choose from just the palette. We've got a soft coral, we've got a yellow, we've got the purple. I used my embellishment stencils to add to this one, but I also used them on the eggs up here. So you get in here, dry your paint. I've got a little fan going over here so it dried on me. Just swirl it on there. If you do it really faint and light, you will end up with your yellow making your teal a different color, which can be a really pretty effect. If you don't want it to be like that, then you need to be careful of that. All right, and then this has got a bunch of little moving parts. This is a really good place to add just holding it with your finger. But that's gonna give you some neat detail when you lift it off. It's gonna give you your highlights and the truck detail. Some truck stencils only have just like the cutout, so it's gonna be like a solid blob, and I think it looks better with the details. This might be also a really good place to bring that stippling in. If you don't want things moving around, you shouldn't be sliding on top of them, so you could just go in there. What happens with stippling, watch, if I stipple right in the middle of there, I end up with like circle shapes and strong shapes, and so you have to kind of blend out from the edge, but it's very irregular. You see that? So I like swirling, and I'd rather get my fingers dirty and swirl. Hang on to things. Little combination of all of it. Okay, so I'm not going to take that further. I'm going to use a dirty brush, and I'm going to go into a blue. Will the teal do it? Let's try the teal. Wipe off on the brush, neutralize one more time. And I'm just going to add that little bit of shady color at the edges. I do it at the sides, at the bottom, on the nose. The rabbit is brown. Let me show you dots next, and then we're going to move on to how to embellish this. So make sure you're liking, sharing, and commenting. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you like and ring the bell as well, because that little bell will give you a notification that something new has been posted. If you like this content, make sure that you comment and let us know what you like. We literally do what we do for you. We've got a great creative team here, and we love making you happy. Okay, take that and get rid of it. There's a fun thing to know about dots. I use the back end of small paintbrushes, so I've got my smallest dome brush, and it's got so you didn't know, these are tools. So you can mix with the back end of your brush. You can, it doesn't work as well as the palette knife, but you can. Each of these is a different size dotting tool. So maybe if you break your brush or it doesn't work anymore, you can make yourself a set of dotting tools and put them on a keychain or something like that. Just cut the ends off. I'm going to use the back end. But there's a neat thing to know about dotting, and that is that you have to use fresh paint to do dots. If you do not use fresh paint, then you get pointy, boogery tips. That's a technical term. You can use that in all of your sharing and posting. But yeah, it's really yucky, and it's not easy to do. It's not pretty. And then what I like to do is I like to do descending dots. So what we do is we get out fresh paint always. And I need a new paper towel. I don't want one with color, because if I have it with color and I wipe into a wet area, then I'll make a mess. So descending dots are, we put our brush right into the paint and sort of know where our center is. The biggest one is going to go in the middle, and then you walk in even increments without wiping your brush, and you get yourself descending dots. Then you wipe off your brush. If you don't wipe off your brush, the end of your brush around the edges of it will get dried paint, and then your dot tool will get bigger and bigger, and then you won't get the descending. Okay, so then I pick up the paint, and we go right next to that other guy, and we walk in the other direction. Okay, and then we have descending dots. Dots will stay wet for 100 million years. You will think that they're not going to be wet, and they will still be wet. So you want to put this someplace, let it dry. You can force dry it with a blow dryer, but it takes a really, really long time. So just know that you should dot everything at the end. And if you're doing something like this, I dot it on both sides. You should dot it, you should turn it over to dot the other side, because it's really easy to smear right through your dots, and that's a mess. That's a big old mess. All right, so now we're going to talk about our embellishments. Okay, so what we have got going on here is we have made kind of a big old mess here. Okay, there we go. We took white rope and we drilled 2 holes. We choose not to sell our surfaces with the holes drilled in them unless it's certain exceptions, but because you never know where you're going to want your holes. So we chose to drill 2 holes, and everybody's got a drill at home. We'll show you how to drill in another video, because I think that's a good technique. So we did our rope, and we pulled it through and tied it. So we pulled it up to tie it, and then we frayed the ends. Okay, and then we took our rope, a little piece of our rope apart, and frayed it. So it's a 3-ply. So we took 1 ply, we tied the bow to the top, and then we frayed that. Okay, so that's how we got, and then we added some raffia. And then I think one of my favorite bits for this jewelry, because I think it's egg jewelry. Okay, so we've got one of those flat ribbons. I think that was in the Valentine video. We showed you, Carrie came on and showed you how to do that. You really just, I think I needed a couple more layers. It's kind of simple, and it does a neat frame, so I'm not sad about it. But what I love about these pieces is they jingle jangle, and you can bend them and make them float. If I had both of my hands, I could do this better. But you can make them float in front of your piece. So you can get them where you want them, and then they get a little bit of movement and a little bit, just like earrings, and this one's flipped over. See how that just does its thing? So the way I do that is take our wire. Remember, we're almost at the end, so like, share, and comment, and then let us know what you liked about. Like, tell us, when you're commenting, tell us what you liked about this video. Tell us if anything seemed confusing. I want to know that too. I don't want to confuse anybody, so we need some wire, and we need a cutting thing for our wire. Need to find the end of our wire. Hello, end. I think you're right. I think you're there. Let's pull it tight, and then I'll know. Okay. So, and when you're doing wire, don't pull it this way to get it out. Push it out of its loop to get it out, and that will make you not be a knotted up mess of wire. Okay, so the way that I started this, I'm going to do it little because otherwise it's too much for cameras and stuff. I made it longer on one side and shorter on the other, and then I put my small eggs on there first, and this is also a wire tool, so I also went ahead and gave myself a couple of bends. And you can do bigger ones on the longer side and smaller ones on the other side. So do 2 or 3, whatever you like, but notice how that's just gonna look different. It's not gonna be the same. I think same is boring. So then I threaded on the smallest little embellishment, and slightly in front of my twists, I just twist it. And then that will dangle on there just like that. And then you make it a little bit longer. You need to make sure you give yourself extra wire, because all of these little bends and loops makes it really short. So then I do a couple more little flips. I add another egg and do the same thing on the other side. And then I move into my larger eggs down the line. And then I tied that to the bow. I'm gonna get this back up here. So this is the one side, that's the longer. And you can see that all of those little loops is what makes it possible to lift that away from the piece. Get over there. So that is, and then you can just adjust them. and make them how you like them. And isn't that just wonderful for the front door and all of the things Easter? So I hope you guys had fun today. Let us know what you liked. Have a great day and happy painting.